So I want to go back for a moment to somebody just starting out. Let's say they've got $20,000, $30,000. Do they try to buy a one-bedroom house or condo, or do they go all in on index funds or iShares, or do they just YOLO it all into Tesla? What's your take there?
Well, I have a rule that my mother taught me decades ago that served me well in all the volatility I've experienced as an investor from my early 20s on.
Yeah.
A simple rule, let's talk about the market first. Never let one stock become more than 5% of your portfolio, and never let a sector, of which there are 11 sectors in the American economy, like, real estate's now a sector, technology, healthcare, they're all sectors. Never let the sector become more than 20% of the portfolio. And that gives you diversification, which is very important to be able to survive volatility in a market. When you make a big bet and you let Tesla become 80% of your net worth, and should it correct, a lot of people learned that the hard way in the dot-com era. They had stocks like pets.com that went to zero, that kind of thing. But if you have diversification, you don't have that problem, because the likelihood that everything goes to zero is lower, much lower. Regarding housing, you have to understand something about housing. You really can't buy a house for $25,000. So what it means is that you're going to take on debt. And so mortgages are most people's largest obligation in their lives, and their largest asset is their home. There are periods in time when prices of housing correct and you're underwater. In other words, you don't have any equity anymore because you owe more than the house is worth. Yep. And so sometimes the best thing to do is to say, I'm going to be a renter until I can actually afford a mortgage, even if the market corrects. And that may be a better discipline, because the truth about retirement, if you have the average salary in America, $56,000, it might be better to simply put aside $100 a week, put it into an ETF, an index ETF. The market has given over a 100-year period, somewhere between 6.5% and 9% return on average long term. Some years are down, some years are up. There is volatility. But the point is, at the end of the day, that has ended up being the way you retire with over $1.5 million. But you have to have the discipline of putting aside $100 a week. And there's so many different apps you can use to do this now. It's not like it's hard to do. What's hard to do is change your behavior, because most people spend everything they make and more, and then they end up in debt. But it would really be, you got to remember something. When you put $100 into an index fund that's in your name, that money's for you. It's not for anybody else. You're building your own future, which I think is a good way to look at it.
Yeah, well, a big thing that we hear a lot about right now is this having an emergency fund, having that 6-month emergency fund. Something that I've found is a lot of people, they'll save up that cash, they'll build up that 6-month emergency fund, but before you know it, vacation time comes up, and we'll just borrow from the emergency fund and we'll just repay it because whatever, why not? And then what happens is nobody ends up ever investing. Is $100 a week gonna do it?
It's the minimum. If you can put $400 aside, which is actually doable with your average salary of $56,000, it's the minimum. Obviously, you should do more. A simple way to look at it is take 10% of your paycheck and put that away and never hit it. Do not touch it. Okay. Obviously, I understand medical emergencies and everything else, but the truth is, when you take money and burn it on a vacation or buy some useless piece of crap you're never going to use, which many people are guilty of, including me, you've killed off your future. That money's not working for you anymore. So do you really need another pair of jeans, another pair of shoes? Just look at your closet of all the crap you don't wear. That's all money you wasted. The truth is, most people wear, maybe a dozen different things they have, even though they have 30 of something. That's what my mother taught me. She said, buy few things, but buy really good things when you buy them that last. And that's the philosophy I have in everything from watches to clothing.
Wow. Now, I want to ask you a specific question on real estate there. One of the ways I started, the way I started was I bought a house, putting 3.5% down as a fixer-upper. My girlfriend at the time, she put half of the down payment in, and I put down half. So we each put down about $7,000 plus some closing costs and that. And one of the things that we found that was so beautiful about that was we were now able to buy a $300,000 asset that needed some repairs so I could put my own sweat equity into it. We were able to control a $300,000 asset having a net worth of $9,000 each. And so we were able to do that with a monthly payment of about $2,000 a month. And the beauty about that was, worst case scenario, if we needed to, we could move and rent it out for that, even putting money aside for repairs and that. Or worst case scenario, we thought, hey, if we can't afford the payment, we'll rent out rooms. Isn't that potentially a way that people can start house hacking or renting out rooms, or buy a duplex, rent out another room, just to be able to leverage up their wealth maybe quicker than they could otherwise?
Yes, it is. And I did the same thing, with the exception that I don't think it's a good idea with a random girlfriend. You should enter into a financial relationship called marriage if you're going to do that, because that asset can become very, very valuable, becomes part of the couple's financial stability. Every time I've heard of people that have, and I've got plenty of examples of this, you fall in love, it's euphoric, you buy a house together, you're not married, then poo-poo happens. 50% of unions fall apart for a lot of different reasons, but then you've got this horrific litigation trying to solve for liquefying the house, or one side buys the other half from the other. It's a mess. And so I always say to people, look, I did it on my own. I borrowed $10,000 and I was able to buy a house, and I rented every room out. I lived in the basement, but I, over time, built a lot of equity up in that, just as you said. But I didn't do it with my girlfriend at the time, because I don't even know where she is anymore. I did it myself. So unless you're getting married, I wouldn't do it that way.
Okay. Well, fair correction there. I will say, knock on wood, but Lauren and I, we are happily married now and have 2 kids. Maybe we were the other 50%, but no,
that's a great story. But I mean, if others listening, I really, I wrote a book called Men, Women, and Money exactly about this, and I'm very proud it became a bestseller almost overnight. But it deals with topics like this, and it really talks about the reality of where money fits in love. And there's a reason that after 7 years, 50% of unions fall apart. It has nothing to do with infidelity. Most marriages can survive that, but it has a lot to do with financial pressure. And that's why when I did a lot of research with divorce lawyers, and they said it's always the money. It's always the money. One couple outspends the other and drags everybody into debt. And finally, that just takes over. The only reason they're together is fighting about debt. Terrible.
Yeah, that is terrible. That's unfortunate. I'm about to say, and it'll be a little embarrassing saying it to you, but I'll say it. And I don't recommend this, so I want to be very clear about this. So about half of my net worth is in real estate, about half is in stocks. So the portfolio, because there's debt obviously against the real estate, and a little bit against stocks as well, which I know you're not a big fan of. But of the half that's in stocks, about 48% is Tesla. Is that really bad?
Yeah, it is. That's really bad.
So I get roasted by Kevin O'Leary. I had to do it.
Yeah, that is a very bad idea, because you saw a drawdown of 25% or 23%, and it's come back a bit. Your cost base is probably very low on Tesla. So I would never ever let that happen in my portfolio, ever. So if anything happens to Tesla, you're going to really be crying the blues. But it doesn't mean. But thank goodness we met. You can fix this, Kevin.
It's true.